video episode. So the reason why I'm calling it episode is because it will be uh, sort of a boot camp where you're going to be learning anything about React Native. So React Native is a framework which is really famous out there for Android developers and iOS developers and web developers. So if you are that founder who really needs to bootstrap your app really quick, then this will be your course. Then it will be very detailed. We will be delving deeper sorry, into what you need out there, so that you can be able to build your application and then deploy it and be able to make some money out of it. This means that we will cover even advertising and ad, and we will even towards the end of the course be able to cover some interesting topics in ML and AI in Android development. So during our development, you will also cover topics on backend. That means that you'll be able to consume an API and be able to post to an API. So this is a conclusive course for everyone out there who really wants to be able to be a pro programmer in JavaScript and in TypeScript. So we'll be mixing each and every. It will depend on the case that we'll be working on. For example, if we are working on a web, so we just focus on doing a normal JavaScript. Then I will teach you why you have to choose JavaScript over TypeScript. So get ready to learn and get ready to get your hands dirty and try some interesting and learn some interesting tricks in development. This means that this will be an epic journey for you, and this course is meant for each and everyone. So we are not making it for a beginner, although we will start from a beginner level and we'll go up to advanced level. This is experts trying to refresh their skills, experts trying to learn something new. So just welcome, and then um, just don't just forget to do a subscribe. I think that's one of the biggest thing I can ask from you, because that's how we are going to make this really famous, and we're going to help as many as we can. So first, for today, I'm going to be introducing to you what we'll be covering in this topic. So we'll start from just basic introduction to React Native. So this will be a very inclusive introduction to React Native, and I just did some subtopics which we'll be covering. So for example, you will understand what's React Native, and you will also understand how to set up an environment. You will notice that we did that video, so I'll share the link on the down there so that you can still watch. That's very much conclusive, but for this we are just going to be covering it. And for this bootcamp, which we are starting today, we will be preferring to use Expo CLI. The reason why we are using Expo CLI is because it's easy for those people who are using different OSs. So it's easy for guys who are operating on MacBooks, but for those who are operating on other operating systems like Microsoft Windows, you find it a bit challenging. So we will be using Expo CLI. I will show you how to set it up step by step, and I'll make sure that you understand really well the jargons which go through you being able to set up the environment. After that, we will be okay for the React Native CLI. We're just going to be covering just a little bit, just to make you understand how you can set up. So it's very much open. If you prefer using React Native CLI, that's a good one. But for me, I would recommend Expo CLI because of testing and you being able to access more tooling in terms of development environment. So after that, we'll create our first React Native app. This will now, it's just an example of how you can create an app. So this will be just introduction. So we won't cover complex topics here. We'll just be covering simple simple topics, just to make sure that you understand what is needed when you're starting off in React Native. So after that, we'll now cover React Native components. Uh, uh, for an operating system, or sorry, for an app to work, it just a lot of components which have been coupled together to act as one. So we'll cover a lot in terms of components, where you just get an introduction to components. We'll understand what's the difference between functional and class components, and to why you need to really get to understand functional components over class components. But it's usually very much preference, so we'll also learn about that. And later, you in this module, you'll also get to understand what's JSX and also element rendering. So step by step, you to understand how we convert this JavaScript to Java, and then we just be able to run it on Android apps. Then we will also cover we'll also cover styling. That is styling basics in inline styles. So this is just CSS, but written inline. I will explain. I will expound this topic when we'll be doing the course. What it means by inline styles, and also you linking it through a file. And also we write some code with a stylesheet.create. This is you being able to write CSS, but make it look like JSON objects. So you will really delve into that and be able to understand that. And then we will understand common properties, or common styling properties. So that will be module 1, and then we're expecting it to cover it just 1 week. And then this 1 week you'll be able to start up a React Native app, write simple components, and also be able to write some CSS. And also I will introduce you to other libraries which are a bit easy to deal with. When writing, when bootstrapping your app, we really need to make sure that if you're writing an app, you write it really quick. We want to be able to develop an app really quick. So after that, we will go on to module number 2. This will be now week 2. Week 2 will be learning on React Native fundamentals. So the reason why we are making this look like a step-by-step thing is because we want you to understand from basic up to the advanced levels of React Native. We don't want you to understand to start learning as an intermediate, or you being able or you being an intermediate, sorry, but not understanding the basics of the language. So we will be learning each and every thing in React Native. So we'll come to understand states and props. You will actually understand what state and what's the role of states in React Native development. And then now you will get to understand the famous use state props. So you'll get to understand a lot when we cover it in our module 2. And then I will also teach you how to manage state in class components, and also propagation of props. And then the propagation of props will now bring some other topics like Redux and also context API. So after that, after learning now state and props, now it will be now good to now start dealing with some user data. So we'll do a simple form, and then step by step explain how this form is working, and then we'll understand how to handle text input, and what you need to understand when you're handling text input. After that, we'll also delve into buttons and touchable components and event handling. So this is something which will really help you when you're starting off with an application or authentication. So this is very much commonly used during authentications. So we will also get to learn about flat list and lists. So we will also understand why flat list is so light when you're handling with React Native, and why why it's very much preferred when you are developing your app. And then we will create lists in React Native. We'll also have components for flat list and efficient lists, and then I will do some rendering dynamic data. So that will be something which we'll be doing in module 2, and it will be something very amazing if you learn how to render sorry, if you learn how to render dynamic data, then that's a plus for you when you're starting off. And then in module 2, the last two will be navigation and routing. very important because if a user comes to your app, the user needs to go to different pages. So let me just call pages for now, but at that time I'll actually show you what I mean by pages. So this means that a user, let's say for example, a user is buying a product from your store, how you are going to be making this user go from home to maybe product description. So we'll do that, and then you'll understand what you're supposed to do there and how you're supposed to make your app run a bit faster when you're doing that. And then you also get to understand stack navigation, very famous, and also something which I will teach you how to do it. And then we now start now being a bit efficient when we're developing our apps by introducing you to debugging. So I think I can introduce you as early as possible just to make sure that you understand each and everything that you need when you're doing debugging. That's module two. So that's module two. So now we will go on to module three. That means that's week three. So in the first 2 weeks, you'll be able to do a lot in React Native, including you being able to do user input, avoid prop drilling, and then get some better some good topics in React Native. And then module three will now start now being more intermediate. So this means that we will now start dealing with intermediate stuff. For example, we will now introduce you to Redux for state management. I said props drilling is something which you need to avoid, and this is one of the easiest ways we can avoid it. Although we are not going to be introducing it like Redux, we will start with Context API, very famous, but used in small applications. But for this Redux, you can use it in prod and big applications. That's why we'll be focusing on that. It's a front-end developer. It's good to understand Redux more than Context API. So I will introduce you to Redux. I will also help you set up Redux and then connect React Native with Redux. And also, there's a very interesting thing which we'll be covering in this specific video. And this is a template for Redux. So after that, we'll now start covering topics which go into you being more efficient, for example, like async, storage, and data persistence. So these are terms which will be used mostly by the backend developers, but it's something we are going to be covering here. For example, you'll get the basics and also storing data on the device, and then retrieving and updating the data. So that means that you'll be able to just do some simple files on the device. And then we will go on to integrating APIs. This is making API requests and with fetch as well as handling API responses, and then being able to handle to have some error handling. This will include you getting to understand some status codes. So I will introduce you into some of the most common status codes when you are dealing with user data and um, displaying dynamic data on an app. So we'll be using a fake API data to show you how you can really fetch data from the API and do some nice UI and be able to showcase your skills. So after that, we'll now go on to working with working with third-party libraries. That means that we now start introducing you to something like Axios. You'll also get to understand some other um, interesting libraries, especially for those for carousels and some other advanced libraries. I will introduce you to as many as you, and the most important ones which you need to understand before you start chasing the bug out there with your skills. So that means that I will introduce you into third-party libraries. I will show you how to install and using libraries and version control. So the reason why you are now starting hearing version control in module number 3 is because this is something you need to learn. You don't need to bundle a lot of libraries into your into your app. So we need to be very much careful on how we add to the app to make it as light as we can, as light as possible, and very much fluent when the client is interacting with your app. So and lastly, in module number 3, I will introduce you into building forms and validation. So after now we come, I introduce you to third-party libraries. It will be time now to start using them. For example, how you can add or user data, and the libraries which you'll be using to be able to um, and check users data, the user inputs, as well as I will teach you how validation techniques, some advanced stuff here, and then user feedback and error handling. So you don't want to return some technical strings to a user. So I will teach you how to return the most important information to the user when there's an error or something weird happens. So after that, we will go on to styling and UX design, but this one will be a deep dive into how you can into teaching you flexbox layouts in React Native, um, as well as understanding flexbox in React Native with layout best practices. So this is more or less like some user experience and user analysis, like for example you being able to understand how do you bundle out your app to make it better for the user, for the end user who is using it. Then we'll create custom components, that's building reusable components, component composition, props, and customization. So I will explain each and every one, each and every subtopics in the video, so it will be very much detailed, because I just wanted to make this video a bit short, because it's just an introduction of the plans for the next 12 weeks. So we'll also do animation and gestures. These are animations in React Native, how you make your animations a bit light and not heavy on the processing of clients phone or clients processing systems. So just to make sure that the animations are not eating much of the client's RAM. And we'll also do gestures and interactivity with the React Native animation libraries. So and the last two will be theming and styling best practices and accessibility in React Native. So how do you plan your app out there when you're building app, especially in terms of making it very presentable and very much beautiful. So and then week 5, which will be now module 5. Now we will start now doing more aggressive work. Now that you have understood how you can style your app, how you can start up with your app, now it will be a time now to start building real world projects. These projects, you can use them in your portfolio, you can showcase them in an interview. So this will be something really much engaging for those who will be going with the course. So this is something which you can use it for your for anything, for example for interviews. So we'll write a to-do app. So the reason why we'll do a to-do app is because you will need to understand CRUD and then get the basics of how an app is working. For example, you'll be able to do CRUD. When I say CRUD, that is create, read, update, and delete. So but we'll do it on a React Native app. So that will be an app, and then we will be able to create tasks, and then marking tasks as completed and deleting tasks. So after that, after you understanding how to do CRUD, then we'll now go to do a full-blown Uber Eats clone app. That will be one of the biggest stuff we'll do on this course, and it will be one of the things which will give you uh, a lot of skills on how these apps are working out there, and then it will help you really understand how these companies are doing this are doing this are doing these apps and making them really light to work on your apps. And then that will include fetching data, adding cards, and then being able to see your card data, and then product details. So it will be a very detailed project, especially for you who is learning React Native. And then later we'll still do another app, which will be now web application. So we'll do an app, an Android application and iOS, and then compile it and then showcase it to you. Then after that we now go and use the same skills to build a store web application. And then there you will understand state management. That's now we are going to delve deeper into Redux. And then we'll now understand filtering. So that will be very amazing for, especially for intermediate and advanced React Native programmers. We'll cover very much detailed um, topics when we'll be building the store web application. Then the module 5 will be more building clones and building projects. So we'll also build Twitter clone. So but we will be focusing on the user profiles, posting updates, and then liking and commenting. This will also give you better understanding of how you can handle multiple user inputs, and you can now do user data and then be able to connect user data from what the user is doing on the system. We'll also been able to understand some cool ways of storing data locally and then on the web. So and also we will do a deployment of the App Store and submission, that is preparing your app for release, generating build artifacts. So I will explain each and every one of these topics when we'll be doing, and then later we'll submit to app stores, and then we do post-release maintenance. So this is just one course which will make you understand all these topics. They are a bit advanced, but you'll be able to understand how it's done. And then most importantly, so each and every company right now, they are going to a virtualized, let me say a virtualized computer. Let me just call it, but in layman's language. So I will introduce you to Docker. Very important, especially for the intermediate programmers out there. If you have been doing some code for the last 2-3 years and you have never used Docker, so we will cover each and every topics in Docker, and then we will do an app on top of Docker. We'll just Dockerize an app. So we will understand Docker container, how to use it, what is Docker image, Docker file, Docker engine, Docker compose, Docker registry. You'll also get to understand container orchestration and then use cases. So for the major use cases, one of the biggest use cases for Docker is application isolation, microservices, DevOps, and CI/CD, and portability. So these use cases will cover each and every one of them for you to be able to understand. And that will be a very interesting clause for module 5. And then for module 6, now we'll go into now the real topics, the real business topics. How do you save cost when you're developing the app? What do you do? So we'll now go into optimization, making your app run really quick. By we'll cover some of the cool topics like profiling and performance monitoring. That is tools for profiling. We will identify performance bottlenecks, and then we'll do real time performance monitoring. So we'll do a whole video on how you can be able to monitor the performance of an app. We will choose the best easy to understand app there, but for now we might try to check on Grafana and be able to understand how we can monitor it. And then one of the most used um, app optimization tricks is code splitting and lazy loading. So we'll also cover that in our app, and then be able to understand how you do it. So we'll cover code splitting strategies, dynamic imports, and implementing lazy loading. So that is lazy and suspend. So these are two keywords which are used, or let me say two functions which are used together. So we'll cover them in details. And then now, because we'll be doing a lot of work, especially on memory and how much your app is going to be taking space out there, we'll now learn how to reduce the bundle size by tree shaking. So we'll cover tree shaking in details. For the most basic explanation of tree shaking is just eliminating dead code. So I'll be able to help you understand how you see dead code. That is, for example, if a module is not used in the app, we just remove it. So I'll show you how to do it, and then we'll do minification, making the app run in mini state. So we will also remove unused dependencies and also optimize images and assets. So we'll after that we'll now get to understand how we do caching and image optimization, and then we'll cover in details caching strategies, image optimization techniques, and then being able to reduce network requests. So when you are doing a call to the API, for example, these are very important topic, especially when you are transitioning from beginner to intermediate. Being able to handle, being able to make your app not request as many requests to an API. That means that you don't eat the API many times when you're doing a simple thing. So I will teach you how to do that in module number 6, and then we'll also cover improving app startup time, how you optimize your assets and being able to really boot quickly. That is optimizing app initialization, reducing time to interact. That's TTI, very common term out there, and then implementing progressive loading. So that will be module 6, very much covering on the performance and cost saving strategies. So and then after that, we'll now start now going back to the advanced topics. Yes, we covered some of them, but those who are not very much advanced as this, so we'll go back to cover some advanced topics for bigger apps. That is native modules and native content integration. So that will now being able to explain how you can write code and then convert it to Java and or Kotlin, and then get some advanced native integrations. And then in this same course, we'll cover device permissions and security. That means you will understand how to manage device permissions, secure storage and data handling, and then security best practices. Very important, because you don't want to build an app which is easy to hack or an app which is exposing user data. So this will be one of the topics which will be very cool and very much focused on user, and then we just learn some best practices when you're handling data, user data out there. And then we'll also understand how you can deal with users from different regions, that is localization and internalization. So we'll cover internalization, that is I18N. So it's a very common term used there, and then we will understand or I'll teach you the basics to intermediate of how you can do it when you're implementing an app. You don't want to build an app, which is just working on your local app. So you need to be able to, if you're expanding your business, be able to expand it really easily to other countries. And then we'll write some code to implement multi-legal support and local specific content. So and then we will go on to testing and TDD, that is test driven development. So I will introduce you to Jest, detox and enzyme, but we just cover we just show you the basics of how you use Jest, detox and enzyme when you're doing the testing, and then we will now write unit test, integration test, and end to end. So you'll be able to understand how these are used out there. And then we'll do an app, a sample app, and then we do it using test driven development. So we write the test first, then we write the actual code for the app. Then and this module, that is module number 7, we'll also do CI/CD, more detailed now, where we'll set up a CI/CD pipeline, and then we do automated testing and deployment, and then later we do monitoring and rollback strategies. Sometimes you push something to prod and then it fails, so we'll learn how to roll back those changes. And then now we will go more to business focused topics. That is now towards the end of the project, or towards the end of the boot camp. That means that you will understand our publishing process, and then you will understand monetization strategies. That is freemium, ads, subscriptions, and then implementing in-app purchases, including revenue optimizations techniques. And then we'll do a sample app, and then we do the ad integration, and then you'll be able to see ad mob, ad placement strategies, and ad performance monitoring. Then we'll cover in-app purchases, and then later in module 8, which will very much money focus, we'll now be able to check on app analytics and user feedback. So after that, we will go into advanced UI UX design. So that means that we will now cover in details responsive design, and then have been able to develop your app on different sizes. Remember, we have different sizes out there, so you really need to understand how to handle different sizes out there. And then we'll also learn on responsive layout techniques, handling orientation changes. So if someone switches to portrait mode, you don't want your app to crash, or if a user switches to landscape mode, you don't want your app to crash or to look ugly. So we'll learn some good some interesting topics and some interesting tricks when we'll be doing that. So we'll also do custom animations. This will write primarily our own code to implement some some animations, and then do some advanced animation libraries. We'll cover some of them, and then be able to create an interactive animation, so and then enhance user experience. So after that, we'll go to advanced navigation patterns. So now we'll cover something with tab navigation, and then different libraries which support that, and then stack navigation with complex flows. Then on this topic, we'll also get an introduction on augmented reality. That is, you will also get to understand how you can integrate your app on AR. So we'll do introduction to AR, and then be able to understand how you can build an AR experience, and then get to understand AR libraries and SDKs. And then later we'll cover on creating a custom UI library. So module 10, that will be now the third last module. So in this level now you'll be an expert React Native developer. So we'll be now confirming the skills that we have gained on the last nine weeks. And then now we'll now go on to code refactoring and code quality. So this is I know this is more much focused to performance, but now the reason why I had to put it as a whole topic with some subtopics like refactoring principles, code review practices, and maintaining code quality is because we want you to be able to write some dry code. So what I mean by dry code is do not repeat yourself. So we make the app really much it is similar to code splitting, but not very much a code splitting thing. So we will work on some cool tricks when we'll be doing that. And then we will also touch some bits of upscaling and performance at scale. So and then version control, and now version control now we'll cover with some collaboration out there. So this is just like refreshing what we have learned. We'll be refreshing the most important topics in this course. So this sort of you being able to go out there, understanding the most important or the priorities when you're building an app. So we will do an effective version control with Git, collaborative development workflow, and also code margin and conflict resolution. So in this step now we'll do a conflict. We'll create a conflict for our app, and then we resolve it. You'll be able to understand a lot when you'll be doing that. And then now that we will do an app and then do it put it to prod, and then we'll cover some remote debugging in production, monitoring and logging, and then we'll just do incident report and recovery. So this will be very much focused on teaching you how you do it. um, and then long-term maintenance and updates. So this will now cover more or less like what you need to do once your app is out there. So you really need to have uh, some understanding on how you can do continuous maintenance practices and applying updates and patches and version deprecation. So once, let's say you build an app version 1.00 and you want to transition to 1.1.0.1, and then for this you just have some simple patches. I'll teach you how you transition into that. And then let's say you want to transition from 1.0.0 to 2.0.0.0. That's a major update. So you might need to limit user access to the old version, maybe because it had security issues, there's something you are trying to patch. So you will get to understand all that. And then that means that we'll be able to duplicate your app and then make it not usable to users. And then we'll cover serverless functions and backend integration. That means you understand how serverless architectures work, and then you do a real time, you do an integration, and then do a real time serverless communication. So that will be one of the interesting stuff, because you'll be able to understand how ChatGPT is working. So we'll cover that, and then we'll cover something with the React Native Web for cross-platform web apps. So the reason why this came in here, although we will have done some good, we'll have written some code on web apps, but now we'll delve deeper into PWS and how you do PWS. So this is very much focused on PWS. Then after that, we'll now go into more modern stuff. So that is machine learning and AI. So for the machine learning, we'll just do some simple app, and then do some model which will be doing some certain stuff, and then we'll get some features which are AI powered. And then for this course, I will introduce you into TensorFlow JS, and then ML toolkit for Firebase, and then one of the most famous thing out there, we'll do a ChatGPT integration. And then for this case, yes, because this course I created a bit earlier, so I wanted to use GPT-3, but we use the GPT, specifically GPT 3.5, because it's free and it's easier to use more than GPT-4. So you can see PWS are coming here. So this will be very much related to this. So this course will have this unit, and this will have almost similar things to cover. And then we'll do a sample of voice and AR integration, that is voice user interfaces. Most people call it VUI, so we'll do something with augmented reality and VUI, and then we'll build something with immersive experiences. And the final module, or the final thing, will be create comprehensive React Native app. So we'll do an app which is covering, let's say 75% of what we will have learned. So this will be an app which will cover basics, intermediate, and expert stuff. And then the beauty of it, I will also provide the whole code so that you can be able to practice and practice. So, and then now that we'll be going out there to look for jobs, we'll do a developer portfolio. So this developer portfolio, I will actually share this on the description, so that you can be able to see what I mean by developer portfolio. We'll do a similar app, and then showcase projects, and also deploy a portfolio website. So for this case, we'll use Vercel. So, and then later we'll do networking and job search strategies. What you need to understand when you're looking for a React Native or an Android developer job. Now you will have all the skills you will have learned from 0 to 100. So you'll be super a super aggressive developer out there when you go into developing modern and beautiful apps out there which are doing amazing stuff. And then to make it a bit more sweeter, or to add some juice on the on the on the interesting stuff. So we'll now do some technical interview preparation, and here this one you can see this here will be using some many questions from we'll cover multiple questions and how do you answer them, and then we'll also delve into common interview questions, and then do 5 or 6 coding challenges. And that will be a very good journey for those who would really want to learn React Native in a very short period of time. So just prep yourself, be ready. So this will be very much interesting topics to learn, and very much interesting thing to learn. So the best thing you can do right now is just click on that notification bell, and then subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe and then click notification bell, you'll be able to get notified on anything that we uh, any module that we cover, or any subtopic, or any topic that we cover, and then upload it onto the YouTube. So get ready. This will be one of the most amazing um, bootcamp which you will never find out there for free. See you later. So have an interesting one.